Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church in Eugene, Oregon, a community where, empowered by love, we are transformed and seek to serve our world. My name is the Reverend Lois Van Leer, she, her, hers, and it's my pleasure to be creating worship this morning with Suzanne Giordano, our collaborative pianist, Mitch Davey, our music director, Jean DeVenny, our worship associate, our behind-the-scenes tech person, Kat Johnson, and Jones Hollister, chair of the search team. This week, we were granted a moment's reprieve from the tension and anxiety around the possibility of violence and the further degradation of our democracy. And in the midst of all that surrounded the inauguration, we were given an even greater gift than reprieve. We were given Amanda Gorman, at 22, the youngest inaugural poet in history. She's the one who sealed the deal that day. She sealed the deal on hope this past week with her words and her quiet fire. These words in particular. For while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption we feared at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour. But within it, we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So while we once asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? Dear ones, here we are, still, again, maybe still hypervigilant, maybe just this side of despair that all is lost, but just for a moment, let a 20-year-old poet offer you the solace of possibility. For she and those whom she arose from will not allow hope to be silenced. And her generation need not pick up the mantle of our defeats. It is we who need to put on her generation's mantle of insistence and resistance and laugh at catastrophe's impotence, saying, how can you possibly prevail over us? And so we gather this morning as we do every Sunday. We do not leave the troubles of our lives or the world at the proverbial door. We do not leave all that is life-affirming at that same door. We bring all of it with us into this time and this space. May the weights of our hearts be lifted. May the joys of our hearts be amplified. May our time together provide nurture and sustenance for our living. Welcome to worship. A special welcome to those of you who are visitors, and I would invite you to fill out the visitor survey form, which is going to be in the chat momentarily. And to those of you who would like to share the joys and sorrows of your heart in the witness of a gathered group of people, please also look in the chat for the link to the Compassionate Connection Circle that happens immediately following the service. Today we have many celebrations, not the least of which is the auction that was held last night. Special thanks to Suzanne Reynolds and Jane Wagner, the co-chairs of that event, with help from Phyllis O'Neill, Kay Kreider, our intern Jennifer Hackett from Nashville, Kat Johnson, Judy Shaw, Dave Desert, and last but not least, the superhero, the Superman, Sam Rutledge. The tentative final total, drum roll, $8,350. Congratulations, and thank you everyone who participated. Thank you who donated. All of you, thank you. It's my pleasure at this point in time to invite Jones Hollister, chair of your search team, to give us an update.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here with you all this Sunday. Your ministerial team has been working really hard, and we are thrilled at the quality and diversity of the possible candidates that we've been interviewing. We can't tell you about them because we need to keep their privacy, but trust me, it's good. We're doing that process for the next few months, and we look forward to having a candidate for the church to meet and consider calling in April. And we need your help. We want to share what we as a congregation most love about living here. We can't give these ministers a tour of our town so we are hoping you'll bring our congregation and area to life for them. Please submit photos of your favorite places and things in this area, places you like to go that are an hour's drive away or a day's drive away. Selfies are welcome, as are pictures before and during COVID. We're thinking about pictures of folks watching the waves on the coast, paddling in the rivers and lakes, hiking, playing in the snow, sitting in your backyard, getting a meal at Planktown, biking the river path, playing music in the park, crocheting at a coffee shop, anything, anywhere that you love, with or without people present, though make sure those folks give you permission to send the photos our way. We'll make a montage, a slideshow of these photos to share with the ministers interested so they can see what a beautiful and wonderful place it is that we live and love and worship together. We need high quality photos, so more pixels is a better image, if at all possible. And we've got a Dropbox online for them. If you have questions, you'll be able to email Steve, and his email is skuzma photo@icloud.com. More information and that email address will be posted in the Facebook community site and will be in the weekly connections. So look there for that information. And once we have it opened, I'll post it in the chat as well. The deadline is Sunday, the 31st at midnight. And that's because we need to get this together in order to share it with them. We are so excited at being able to show these ministers what a beautiful, wonderful, lovely place we live, and what a beautiful, wonderful, lovely group of people we are in our diversity and differences. We take very seriously the trust you've placed in us, and you're in our minds and hearts as we look for the best ministerial fit for our amazing congregation. Thank you so much for all the support you've sent our way. Much love to you all. Thanks.
Thank you, Jones, and thank you to every single person on that search team. They have had a Herculean task these past weeks, and they have risen to the occasion. Some of you may already know this, but we lost a longtime member of the congregation this week, Fred Massari. I want to light a candle in honor of his life, and there will be a service. His daughter, Diane Massari, has asked that Katie Seipert officiate at that. I'm thrilled that we will have a service. Please, again, look at the weekly connections to find out when and where. Welcome to worship.
We light our chalice this morning with the words of Pamela Rumenchek. Why community? To remember that one is not a whole number, that we need both roots and wings, that strength comes from relationship and mutuality, that we know in life through and with one another.
That song, Lean on Me by Bill Withers, seems to be the perfect intro for our meditation this morning. I know so many of you feel as if you have been carrying all the tension, all the fear, all the anxiety of the world in your bodies and in your hearts. And you wonder, am I the only one? You are not the only one. And know that here in this community, you can lay that down, even for just a moment, in this time of meditation and being together. Trust that you can lean into this community and let it go. I invite you into a time of meditation and letting go. And if you are physically able, I want you to take your hands and I just want you to shake them. And shake all that fear, all that anxiety out of there. Blessed be. Amen.
This morning's call to worship is by the Reverend Eric Walker Wickstrom. If you are who you were, and if the person next to you is who he or she was, if none of us has changed since the day we came in here, we have failed. The purpose of this community, of any church, temple, zendo, mosque, is to help its people grow. We do this through encounters with the unknown, in ourselves, in one another, in the other, whoever that might be for us, however hard that might be, because these encounters have many gifts to offer. So may you go forth from here this morning, not who you were, but who you could be. So may we all. 20th century UU theologian James Luther Adams, known fondly as JLA, has this to say about the institution of church. Church is the place where you get to practice what it means to be human.
You all could be anywhere else on this Sunday morning, or any Sunday morning for that matter. Even when our lives aren't limited by the restrictions of COVID, you're here. You're present on Sunday mornings with everything else that pulls and begs at you, with everything that there is to seduce you. You are here. Why? Why do people come to church? In this day and age, church? Really? According to the Pew Research Center, the number one reason that people in this country go to church is to feel closer to God. That's 81% of respondents. And then that reason is followed by one, the desire to provide children with a moral foundation, to make them better people, and for comfort. Folks who don't attend have three main reasons. They don't believe anything. They practice their faith in other ways, or they're engaged in what I call a shopper buffet dabble sort of dance with religion and spirituality. Carrie Nyhoff, a charismatic pastor of a large and still growing evangelical church, says that even committed churchgoers are attending church less and less. He gives many reasons for this, but the ones that I think are relevant for us as Unitarian Universalists are the following. Our culture places a higher value on children's activities than it used to. And many of those activities occur on weekends or on Sundays. And prior to COVID, more travel. We're simply a much more mobile society. The reality is that lots of our children and our families are blended, or some have single parent families. At any rate, parents may not attend the same kinds of religious services in the two households that the children go between. Online options. COVID's given us all the gift of being able to attend church almost anywhere in the country at a time that's convenient for us. And once again, we are attending other competing online events, TED Talks, the Moth Radio Hour, Snap Judgment, This American Life, and we're listening to podcasts by all kinds of folks. Guilt no longer plays a major role as a motivator. Try guilting a UU about church attendance and see how far it gets you. And trust me, I have no interest in guilt. There's also been a culture shift wherein the occasional is now the new regular. And finally, the difference between attending and engaging. If folks cannot connect in some meaningful way beyond being asked to serve on a committee or a task force or do some job, they have no reason to keep coming back. That's the research about why people attend or don't attend. But I've been thinking a lot about why church for a while now. And there are four main reasons that stand out for me: meaning making, community, a life crisis, and the need to mark life transitions or passages through ritual. Robert Frost famously wrote, "Home is the place where when you have to go there, they have to take you in." We're all looking for a place that will take us in, a place to be welcome, to belong, to be seen, to be attended to be valued. Home may have been that place for Frost, but it's not so for so many. Church has come to replace home in that poem. We're relational beings. And as relational beings, we have need to be in relationship, to be in community, regardless if we're introverts or extroverts, because the difference there is simply how we do community and how much of it we can tolerate at any one time. We're all looking for a group, a tribe, a community to call our own, a place where we can bring our whole selves, our needs, our ability to give and share, a place to find comfort and solace, as well as to offer comfort and solace, a place where we don't have to always explain or defend ourselves. When we are in crisis or weathering the variety of storms that life throws our way, we have need of one another, of our people. People who potentially share the same values, even if how we think about those values may differ. And what makes church different from other communities that we can and do belong to is the emphasis on meaning making. Because frankly, that's all religion is, a way of making meaning of life and the world. And spirituality, it's how we live into that meaning making. Many of the gods and goddesses were created by our human imagining as explanations for all the things that happen in our lives. Remembering my child terror at thunder, it makes perfect sense to me to try and make sense of that, to try and explain it in a God form, hence the god Thor. Did humans create God, or did God create humans? Some have a knowing that a being, a deity, a God is the author of all life, an entity, a presence as real as the sun or the moon or the stars or the wind or the sea. Unitarian Universalism doesn't tell you what to believe. Rather, it asks that you do your religious and spiritual work and figure out what it is that you do believe or have faith in, whether that be a God or mystery or spirit, guiding principles or truths, love one another. Religious questions, meaning making, are concerned not just with the presence or absence of a God, but with what right, moral, ethical action and behavior is for we humans. What are our responsibilities? What's our place in and relationship to all of life, that interdependent web? What's love? Why is there suffering? What is its meaning? And how should we respond? Why are there inequities in the human condition? And how do we live with that? What are our responsibilities to one another? What is death? Is there more than this physical life? How shall we live? The other thing that makes church communities and other religious communities different is the emphasis on ritual to mark our life passages. Humans have been making up and codifying rituals forever. And most of those rituals are meant to happen within community, not in isolation. They're a public recognition, often of what we sometimes call private events, life events, things like child dedications, bridging, or other ceremonies that honor the transition for our youth from youth into young adult. Gender transitions, weddings, divorces, death. And those are the obvious ones. Rituals can be repetitive or they can be created for one specific service. But underlying ritual is this notion that it is holding the place for something to happen, some sort of transformation. I don't know if any of you have ever witnessed or been a part of the laying on of hands at ordinations of our clergy, but it's an experience that leaves many feeling zapped. It's pretty amazing to have all these hands on you and to feel that energy rushing through you. Ritual also has the power or can allow for healing or transformation. And rituals say communally, something happened. Something needs to be acknowledged, marked. That's why death is so hard during this pandemic time. There's no way to publicly, communally recognize it, which leaves the bereaved suspended, the grieving process interrupted. And it's not so much that memorial services add closure to a death. It is rather that they are a marker along the way of the process of grief and mourning. There are those who make their way to churches because something in life has temporarily broken them or brought them to their knees. They are in emotional, psychic, spiritual pain. Their search is to make meaning of this pain. We may never know what that pain is. That person may hold it to themselves week after week, silently hoping that something in worship or an interaction with someone will provide meaning, comfort, or temporary reprieve, that the burden that they carry can be shared or laid down, even momentarily. They are looking for a restoration to a wholeness. And let me be clear that church is not therapy, nor are most of we clergy therapists. Church doesn't replace therapeutic work, but it augments it. Because in church, we accompany people. We don't fix, we accompany one another. This church is committed to love, transformation, and service. And these are spiritual concepts, spiritual tasks. They require something of us. For faith is neither stagnant or passive. Church, it's not for bystanders. To grapple with the meaning and power of love is significant. To allow oneself to be open to transformation requires a vulnerability, a willingness, a belief that love is greater than fear, and the affirmation that transformation is something to be longed for. To be those who serve requires discernment. You know, maybe I'm foolish, But I believe that churches are places of hope, of assurance when there is no assurance to be found. They are communities of potential, possibility and transformation, places where suffering and pain can be transformed, places where those whom society has determined have no value, no skills, nothing to offer, can have their very beings affirmed, their hidden gifts, skills, or talents coaxed out of them. Churches are places where the heat of love and compassion can forge a new way, a new shape to our being. Churches are containers for our highest aspirations as human beings. We try to live out and into what we could be as individuals and as a community. We practice, as JLA said, what it means to be human and all its complexity, which means we must learn not only how to agree, but to disagree, to endure conflict, to develop the capacity for forgiveness and what it means to restore relationship, to challenge one another without silencing one another, to be able to learn from one another, to deepen our connections. Church is a place of memory and a place of creation. COVID has taught us that church is more than the brick and mortar structure on the corner of 13th and Chambers here in Eugene, Oregon. Our treasurer, Katie Colburn, says repeatedly to me, even if we didn't have a building, we would still be a church, because church is our connection to one another. I'm not sure that most Unitarian Universalists fit the Pew Research #1 reason why people to go to church to feel closer to God. But I do think that we are seeking to be closer to purposeful living and meaning making. To know that our lives and the lives of others matter. To see others not just as needy, but as worthy of simple human dignity. Many of you come because you want to be able to put your values and your beliefs into a collective effort to transform our world. And those of us who are clergy, well, we buckle up and tighten our seatbelts for this wild ride of accompaniment. And so now this morning, it's your turn. Why church? Why are you here? The chat is open. And I invite you to take some time to type your answers into that question. May it be so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a copy of all of these responses. I'm not going to include people's names, but I'm going to get a copy of all these. And I am hoping that we can somehow include them in our newsletter. And if it's too much for the newsletter, I'll find another way to put it out for us. And I don't want you to stop writing your responses to why church. I'm learning a lot, and it's rich what you're sharing. And at the same time, this is a perfect segue to say, if you've already answered that question, perhaps what you will do now is also go to the chat in this time in community and share the joys and the sorrows of your life. For all the joys and sorrows, all the ways that we live our lives that have been painful or bring us relief, we offer prayer, reflection, meditation. I ask all of you who have been witness to the words that have been shared to hold these words in your heart and to carry them with you in love during the days to come. And those who are in need of comfort, may you find comfort. And those who do not joy, may you find joy. May we all receive vaccines, not just we in this country, but the world. May those who are ill from COVID recover. May our fears be overcome by love. May our ways of being in the world bring a deeper justice, the possibility of peace. Dear ones, let this heart of community hold you as you go forward from this day. May it be so. So be it. Blessed be. Why church? Because life is not meaningless, because we are meaning makers, because we see what is and still say yes. Blessings on you who have gathered this morning, and may those blessings follow you into this time as we go forth from this place. Blessed be. Amen.